Hello again, welcome to PaintersBlock. I'm your host, Anthony Ryden, and today we will be going over my armored Mega Gargant Kitbash, and really over his weapons today. His double chain fist and his shoulder-mounted cannon. And, this is a good way to get over your painter's block, is just creating something new and interesting for yourself to get into. So let's get started. Let's grab our clippers, our super glue, and a file of your preference. A larger one is probably better, one that's softer and can go around edges, but I have the small one from Citadel. And I'm going to open up my melee weapons, this bit bag that I have, and I'm going to pick out the ones I want, which when I went through I found my Titan bits, my two chain swords, and I already kind of knew what I was going to get into. So I grabbed them out and got them together. And now we're just going to get started on prepping the model. And in the other videos I have doing his helmet and his chest armor, which I'll link in the description below, we always start off by putting our pieces onto the model and just visualizing what we're going to do before we actually do it. So we're going to grab these chainsaws and we're just going to see what it looks like ahead of time and put it on top of this fist. Now the nice thing about this version of the Gargant, which is the Shipwrecker Gargant or the Kraken Eater Gargant, he has fins on the side of his arms that are easy mounts. And then you just grab your chain fist or your chainsaw, and as you can see I use the cabling and the fin to actually create a nice support, and I just do the same thing on the other side as well, creating this double chain fist that's going to lead into this handle that we have from our old weapon, just to give it a little bit more of a unique perspective and a unique weapon. I don't see many with a handle like that. So then I found some more guns from my bit bag, and I don't really know where this came from. Maybe one of my tanks. Not quite sure, but it was kind of cool because it fit just nicely, and it had this nice little joint that can meet up to the top. So we're just going to put that there and put one on the other side as well. Just using your previous model and trying to add it into and incorporate it into your new Kitbash. You pretty much want to always do that, but it makes things easier and makes things a little bit more fluid, gives you more of a visualization as you're working as to what you're going to go towards. And there you have it. The chain swords are pretty much in place. Now we're going to grab these, they're really cool. They're like bands of iron that wrap around some tree bits. And they come from Broad's weapon, I believe. And so there's another weapon from the Gargant box that's very useful. And since we're using the Shipwrecker or the Kraken Eater as our original, we have this available to us. So we're going to use this and these two pieces and just wrap them around the chain swords like he's melded this iron to put these two together to try to give it some more support, because he's a little bit of a technical genius of Gargants, if you will. But yeah, we're going to just put this around his weapon and give it a little bit more of a believable support, or a frame. There you have it. That's pretty cool right there. And those little joints that we had earlier going from the handle meet up to there. And as you can see, we put some rope from my other bits. You've seen in our last video. I'll put the link down below, like I said earlier. But yeah, you always want to have these ropes on hand. They're always really helpful, and they come in the Gargant boxes. And I just cut them up and put them right there in order to make it look a little nicer. And I'm going to get another piece of netting later. But if you liked anything here, please leave us a like, follow us here on YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, and Instagram, and maybe hit that notification bell. Thank you. Anyways, so we're going to grab our ranged weapon and start moving on to the next part. So grab your ranged weapon bits bag, and hopefully you have everything organized. And I got my Titan barrel all set up, but I flipped the shielding because I know I was going to want to have it a little bit different on his shoulder so that it fit a little bit more properly. And then I found this really cool mount. I don't really know what it goes to either. I believe it goes to a Havoc launcher for the back of a Rhino, but it's really cool. So I just grabbed that and I put it onto the bottom where it actually had another joint for the arm of the Titan, and I just put it together. And voila, it looks really cool. It already looks like it's about to go on top of a shoulder. So there we go. We're just going to put it there. We have our chest piece all set up and to actually put this in that little slot between the shield of the Titan and a piece of his front chest piece. So we're just gonna make sure this sets right, and then we're gonna get it glued on. If you were wondering why I use Loctite glue, I generally just use it out of preference of speed. It generally hits its meld a little bit faster than plastic glues if you don't know what the quality of the plastic is going to be. So when I'm kit bashing like this, I'm using so many different bits from so many different boxes that it's really easier just to use Loctite glue and not have to worry about those different meld timers, and just have it all get done together and decently, and then you just have a little bit of cleanup work later. Well, there you have it. I have the cannon all set up on the top of his shoulder, and now I'm going to grab his hand from the Kraken Eater Gargant, and I just cut off the netting, as you can see right there. And now I have the ship that would normally go onto his back, and I really liked it. I cut off all the pieces that would be hanging off of it so that we could take away from the gravity. That way we could have our own gravity or our own image to it. And we're going to put that around his arm. So first we're going to get his hand in place. Now his hand is going to, in my mind, he's going to be holding like a trigger, so he can actually activate his cannon. And then he needs a guard for this arm, because he's a heavy armored guy. So he's going to have the ship on his arm instead. So I'm going to just glue this over here. Now you may be wondering, it's like, hey, that's just going to look like it's glued. It's not going to look like it's actually connected or like wrapped around or anything. We don't have the netting from previously in our last video, so that's not going to look right. Now that's true, but we're going to grab that netting from our hand that we already cut off from the Kraken Eater Gargant, and we're going to actually use this to make the netting that connects around his forearm. It works pretty much perfectly. So here, I'm just going to show you what I do here. I'm just going to cut a little bit of this, and just, be careful where you're at. Try cutting less is more in this case, because you don't want to cut too much and not have enough. You can always cut more off as you go. So here we go, we got our piece. I'm going to try to fit this around and just connect the ship around his forearm, just giving it more of an appearance that he's actually pieced this around his arm. There you go. And just put a little bit of Loctite glue or whatever glue you like. Now, plastic glue does work really well and leaves less of a residue. If you have time and you don't have to worry about it, use some plastic glue. Otherwise, this is pretty good. And there you have it. It's looking pretty good, all set up. Now it just needs like a little remote control for his cannon, and maybe a little bit of extra rope just to piece some stuff in. So we're just going to grab the rest of that rope from that net from his hand earlier that we just used, and I'm actually going to use it again. I'm just going to cut it a little bit smaller, because I realized on the other hand of his chain fist, and I did kind of mention this earlier, we were going to do this, but I'm going to grab this, I'm just going to put this right here so that it actually looks like it's wrapped around and going, and it's got this more of a support around the bottom of his arm as well with these little planks. Hi, Tomato. No, you can come in later. You like to knock everything over right now. Now, well, here we go. You're just going to grab your glue and you're going to put it right here, just where these ropes are already attached, and just have to piece it together. Now, it's not going to piece perfectly, and that's all right, because we're going to use some green stuff. We're going to make a little bit of tubing and rope, and we're just going to make that look a little bit better. There you go. Nice. And now I have this cable. I believe it goes to one of my chaos tanks. Gonna be real, don't really know where it came from. This is just another one of those bits I had collected over the year of just building stuff. That's on me, sorry guys. But it worked pretty much perfectly. It goes from this hand up to the gun. It's just about the right length. So this is gonna be my cable that connects to my remote control that I'm gonna try to create later. Now here you can see I have a little bit of a blueprint, a little bit of beta, and I take away these blades that I thought were fun, like a little pinwheel, like a deadly pinwheel that he made, but I thought it was a little too silly later and I took it off. But then that's like a little Necron piece right there, and a few little Necron bits I had lying around. I thought it made a cool little remote control that he could have taken out of his cannon. But there you have it. There's our armored gargant and his weapons for the day. Yeah, just a little easy tutorial on how to make those cool little weapons. Next week, here's a little sneak peek on how we're going to be using our green stuff. Or not next week, but the next episode in like 2 days. So here you go. And I just want to thank you all for 200 subs, and I hope we broke your painter's block.